Fatalo Fatu, Savea, thank you very much for having me here again. Fatalo Fatu for Emele. It's always a pleasure to be on here with you guys and to share some knowledge and some wisdom on the show. Fatailawa.
Absolutely. Always amazing and always looking forward to learning something new from you. You know, the pool of wisdom and knowledge of exactly what you're specified to do. Yeah, alo fa tai mo le tai bi fatalu fatu e bele alo le so fo mo ria ya te o le fa tupe wa ko ti sapia e fo ya.
Yeah,
Yeah,
can you see me? I'm not sure. Yeah, fatalo fatula o fiona savea. Ma low level so if woman we yeah. Me sile leva ia tunai ma lo ina mai la o fiona le nei fiafi
tai
ya. Fatalo fat fo ile malu o te mama tina ya. Pa fiangainga ma fartua ai me se fanau le nei fiafi ya ma lo so if woman we.
ma lo fo I fa tai le on sa ia ma le fa pale pale wa o te loa. Ya, ele ya se le o a fia ile maruru le o sa le te mile nei. Ia ma sa fo ma mai ona ia ma I ma ona nga se ma ona fingata. Ia a o le mele le ai fa tai le tu o lo pui pui a ma tia le soifua ma lo ina. Ma o le ma lo si tatou te fa soi ma le atu no. A tātou tala no mua lava. O ia nisi o lo mwhai ma whala au atu I lau whionga le whaltua ma wha ma ma atiri ia ma ta upu tātou te whasoa I ai.
Yeah, whawhitai tele savea mo le sili o le lava e tele lava le mamalu le tunu ule tatu umai ma fasili sili mai. So this week I've lodged 2 applications for first home buyers foi. Yeah, mo le mamalu le tunu o ila tau lava na peina ale tu fasili lava ia. Once we've done an assessment, they are in a position e mawhai e o na avel application. So e mawhai e o na silsila lato po le ale le limiti o le lato pa keki le iai. So yes, o lo iai lava le malo le tunu o lo o tele lava le silsili ma fia mala matili.
Alo, whawhitai. Tā amata mai o le ua iei le whale. Ai ai me te tau ona toi whaale nei o le whale. O le a le whaatulanga ina e amata ai ona whaatino ia le whaia o se nono ngā tupe e whai ei ia se renovation o a vaenga o tau o ia ngā ruenga. Ia ai po a fo I me te tau ona whaamariaina.
Po taisa vea mo le fasili ona o le e ofo il vaitau nei o fio lolo lava ia le mamalu le tunu o la e fia tilo po le ale I tūlanga I mawhai ai ona whaaleleia le lato mota. To any bedrooms or whatever the case would be. Ia o le mea mo mua lava e mana ia le whaatala noa. Po o yeise mo kesi le tātou whale le teimi nei. I will then have a look po le value o lo mota I le teimi le nei as it is ai le I whaia le whaalelenga. We will also then have a look po le alo tupele mo mai tutonu e pe whaafea ona whaatino le tutongi ina o le tātou whaamoemoe. We'll also have a look at history, the current history, o ani tūlanga o le tātou financial position. So sa tūlanga o mai e whaatala noa mau ili, I ona I loa ila ia pe tala whea ngai le awe sa tātou application. O na o le tāua le tūlanga lea ia iei se pre-approval le, so you know po lea se limiki a atu Thomas or whatever builder you malilea le ainga e whaonga. O lawa iei se idea, o fele lato pa ke kile mwhai ona tilo iai. So I ona ave ile le tato application but it's ua tele ile mamalu le tunu make sure we keep our history clean. O le tato records with the bank o nai mela isi lava ia mawhai ona iai so na whaina pe ave le tato application me umalawa ia whaatala noa ai le I ave ina le tato application I tonu.
Malo, whawhitai tā ua I le whaafongfonga mai le tunu ia vaenga. O lea la ua maua le pre-approval. Maua mai ia le wai loe fo la na I lau ma whaule toa I ngā tupe leo e tilo nei ai. Mo le toi whaale lei o se vaenga le whale. O lea le umi ma le whaatapu la e o ngā ai pe tu I nā tu fo I le whale tupe te tau ai o le whaatino loa le ngaruenga.
O isi banks e ta iolo ono masina e valid ailo pre-approval le. O isi foi banks e mawhai ona extend I le tausanga atuas fululua masina. If it's a major renovation le tilo iai. So it really depends. And manatua for ele malu le tunu is only a pre-approval o la yeyo na ya inga ya it's a tau na fa amaliina ai le yo o ye le tulanga em fa yeyo na ona fa nga yo ile ngaluenga. So 6 months or 12 months.
6 to 12 months valid ai ia le pre-approval lea. O lolo winga la, o leo a mai le pre-approval, ai ei taimi e toi li liu mai e le whare tupe po le financial institution lea whape mai ua te ena. O adi mafu anga e ono te ena ai le mea lea pe ua umi na whaatalitali i le whaatinoino le ngaluenga po o iei nisi mafu anga.
Ma nei tele le sili ona o te lo le tulanga le e mana o mia lava le wha malama i le mamalu le tunu ona a au mai lo pre-approval e iei lava ona ia inga le iei lalo on the provision e le i iei se swinga i le tatou tulanga tupe maua mai o ni ai tā lafu ma mea ia, so your financial position must not change based on i le na ave le tatou application. So o le tulanga e mawhai e le bank ona to decline mai le tatou application pe a wha pe o iei se swinga o po o iei nisi ai tā lafu o pa o i lalo o tula e whaingaluenga ai. Or maybe we've assessed le tatou application e la ave utilizing some overtime a le ua kipi uma overkai mea le whale whaingaluenga, or we've gone and got some afterpays or whatever the case is. So a iei lava se swinga whaapea i o tulanga ia mawhai e tatau ma ona mea le toe declare i le bank. Ona iei lo na whaina lai le tatou pre-approval le wa au mai. Another case could be that maybe a watu le tatou valuations is not quite up to the level lai wa fo ia au mai le tatou pre-approval o na whaile le costing ma design, so me la ia ave le valuation le value ana te valuina po le a le value le tatou maota pe a uma na whaatau no. So another possible option, reason why e mawhaia ia le bank on the decline is if the valuation has not quite got enough up to the level and expect my ile bank, so when mawhaia in a decline, or they would reduce the amount e mawhaia on au mai e wha tau nu oile tatou wha mai moe.
Lelei, a whai o iei sau mō kesi runga le whale leo le a tau wha o popo iei ni swinga mani te unga po renovation. O le a se whautuanga e te au mai e te tauno o whai e la mō kesi le a le tātou te whalatali e le i whaia e le amatalia le tātou ngaruenga.
Mana e tele le fsili. O le tūlanga leo te whautuaina lava le a inga aile i amataina le tātou renovation. E mana ia ai tu i lunga tātou pei menia le tātou mō kesi. Ona manatua foi, we are trying to prepare ourselves for wa a umana whaile renovation o ia lela i reile si vaenga e whaopopo le tātou mō kesi. So a whape lifi lunga le tātou pei meni le teimi le a o whaataritali le ngaluenga. You're trying to cater for the increased payments.
Right.
A o i le tūlanga lea, so wa a mata ona whaamasani iai tātou. I le tongi ino le extra le la a pia umale renovation. E ole manei a fo i tu ilunga o tātou pei meni. Ia, o le reduce vawe mai ei le principle o le tātou mō kesi le iei le teimi le. So I usually would recommend, if we can, increase tātou pei meni au whaataritali le whaatinoina po o le tātou renovation le fie whai.
Malu whaftai le whaafonga bai le tātou atunu ia o lo mawhaso ma le whaltua ia Emele Palamo o i e fsosoni atu ia te o e whafso tai ia whale tupe e whai mai ei le pre-approval ia pa manatu e whaatau ina se Fale ia po o le whaamoe fo i ina ia to e whaale leia ni tūlanga o le Fale o le telefoni le nae te wawai fo i lungo le tātou screen o le olua fitu walu tolu fitu walu wha walu o le tāu o le mea lea, e mai o le tātou whaatalinoanga, ai mawhai ei, ona e walau sa o lava wai le whaletua ia Emele. Ia, mamo wai le taimi te le lua te whaafsanga ia, ia, ma talanoa e whaamana malama atili. I, o le ala o whaata oto mai ia tūlanga o le whaatinoina o le ngaruenga, o le renovations. E whaape whea ona whaatūlanga ia le te tongi, po le a po le fia le peimeni o le a le taimi e whaatino e le peimeni na mai ai le amatanga o le ngā luenga CEO o lava ina ua tau walunga ma whai u le whaatino ino le ngā luenga.
Mana ia tele ona o le tūlanga le pe whai lava sina tele o ngai skepu fo i lea e mana o mia le malamala mai. Wa a whape o le wa uma lava ona whaatau nuu ia aia inga o le tatou approval en au mai. Wa uma fo ina saini le tau konkalake ma le builder, whether it's Thomas, if you're using Thomas ma le lato company. Na au mai leo tūlanga le, once o le wa uma na meet ai tatou conditions, o le structure inga lao le mo kesi il vaenga le la awhai le tatou renovation, it will be done on interest only.
Right.
So o le mafu anga o le tūlanga, o na a whaapea o se whaataita inga se lau wafe le la au mai e whai le tatou ngaluenga. O le your contract le la saini ma lau builder, they will have what we call a progress payment schedule. O le progress payment schedule la lea, e pe au ili mai ai o fai faskepu mai, le po le ale vaenga mo le la drawdown, or what's the first amount le la release mai.
Yeah.
So whaapela e se lawa fele tau le renovation atoa, maybe the first invoice is only for 30,000. Ia olona winga, na ale tolu se la tolu sfulua fele la release mai. So you'll only pay interest i le vaenga le la whaonga. A o le to e lava le si fitu sfulua fe. So every invoice that comes to me, I will check it based on the schedule of payment. Le au mai on the builder's contract. Ona avele le bank, you release le vaenga. O mai fo ile si invoice. E au mai foi must be in line with the schedule of payment. Ia na whaopopo le ile tato invoice mo molena. So you will accrue interest based on the amount le la whaonga. Pa ele whaonga ina uma le tupe atoa le ile taimia tasi. So the bank can't charge you interest on the full amount.
Right.
They will only charge you interest on each amount
Released
as we progress until lava umale le whaonga ina le tatu se leni ia ona to atirtilo le pe whawhewheo na structure pe fix pe float po ile vaenga ato le wa uma na whaonga ina.
Malo, ta ua tele le whaalongolongo atu ma le mai tau. O le numero le telefoni a le whanatua Emele Palamo o le o lua fitu, valu tolu fitu, valu fa valu o. Ta ua whasiri i watu ina tu atonu o le a toe vala a watu le tō tele o le atunu, ia mamo fo i le avanoa e te wha malama lama tiri ai ma le manino. Ai, whaafti tele mo le taimi o wha avanoa mai, mo le tāpura kalame, o le malu I Fale le nei a solulu. Ia, la whatu le nai tu vai, ia, ma tātau alunga ai fo I lea mo le nei a fiafi.
Ia whaaftai tele lava savea, ia whaaftai fo ia Radio Samoa mo le au nanga ma le avanoa e mawhai ai ona sosoani ma wha malama tūlanga ese. Awa le malamalama ma le ia wha sosoani le mamalu le tunu ia iai lava se fasili e fia malamalama atili ia feel free to call me o le numero o le olua fitu, valu tolu fitu, valu fa, valu o. Ia manuia tele malolonga le fiafi ia wha soifuaina.
Whaaftai tele manuia fo I malolonga o tali ngā sua, ia ma whai ngā lotu o le nei a fiafi, tuli matai lea fo I vai aso, tā te toi whelua iai, ia ma whapena o na whaopopo, I le tātala noanga o le malu I Fale mo le te minei whaasoifua ia, whaaftai tele mo le tātala noanga. Ia whaasoifua ia le nā, tāwalunga atua le tala noanga ma le whalatua ia Emele, she is a mortgage advisor or a broker. Ia, e sosani ia te oe. Ia, wala au telefoni olu a fitu, valu tolu fitu, valu fa, valu o. Ona se mai leo le tātou pole kalambe, I se tasi foi o tātou malo. Ua whaima pa anga tō tino le Radio Samoa, ma le tātou pole kalambe o le malu I Fale. E pei ona se mai ai le uso ia Thomas, o le lipule o le company, o le Builders Blueprint New Zealand. O ia le na e whasoso ni whaatino le ngā luenga, tu se su e mai e mele le tupe. Ai whaatino e le sunga, I le li I faufale, ia le ngā luenga. Whatalo whatu Thomas Malu le soifua muria.
Talo Savea, thank you so much for having me again. And to everyone listening, I hope today is a good program for us to share some knowledge and some wisdom today.
Malu whaftai. Ile talanoanga ma emele anei. Ile sa ilingo se se lini e whaatino emele o le renovations po le toi whaaleleia po le whaapopo fo o nisi vaianga o le fale. O a nisi o tau fo ile tele i mawhauwhauina. Unexpected costs. E te tau ona e tilo iai ia awa ia mea whape tupu mai. Ai tele i mawhauwhauina. O ala nisi o vaenga o le fale ia po nisi fo i o unexpected costs need to expect that it will pop up during, the renovation period.
If I've lava Malefsili Severe, that's a very good question. Yeah, some of the unexpected things here to tupu on our sites is everything to do with melefa ingole infrastructure or le mefa le ground, le mefa foundations. So when we do a site cut or we get a surveyor in to have a look at the ground, soil, sometimes we might miss things like because on the plan, it says on the plan after we do CCTV that the pipe is running this way, and we have the mains wire run from the road into the site. Some of those things can get missed along the way, and those unforeseen costs can cost when we have to obviously move your cables here, or the mains cable, or when we have to do extra engineering to compensate for the pipe run underneath. So, for example, if I say storm water, pose wastewater line, if I run the wastewater line through the mele fale, it builds more family whaingo fia ngā builder on top. Ngi New Zealand e be whaise lau papa on top of the paper in order for the weight level fight on the new house level lunga paper in order to be able to take the weight. So those are unforeseen costs that we normally have on sites. One of them is the site that we're doing right now for this family. We're doing stage 2 of Fale. We did stage 1 of renovation inside the house. Now we're doing the minor dwelling on the outside. But umanga solar engineer umanga testing, and he said to us, we only need to dig about 300 millimeters down in order to get to what we call clay or good ground. The foundation of the fale. But we ended up digging down 1.2 meters. So you can imagine all the scale or the dirt so anything that you take out, you have to put back in. So those are some of the unforeseen, and those are the major ones, especially when you're doing a new house.
A new house.
Some of the unforeseen that comes with renovations are things that happen when we can't see the walls. I think we discussed this a while back in the Menankupu, where we had the last builder, whoever built the house before us, they put the building paper inside the house instead of outside the house. And we could have never have seen that until we open up the walls. So those are some of the unforeseen with renovations. Is the unforeseen is always to do with water egress issues or moisture getting through the cladding or getting through the house somewhere, or just bad carpentry from another builder in the past that we don't know about.
Malo, o lona winga lai tā wo tele la ia lau tō talanoanga ma le ainga lea. Ina ua umo na au mai ia le lipoti le engineer. Po le architect. O lona winga la o lo tiu te foi is to try and explain to the family that you needed a factor ia tau ia I te tonu o le paketi le ainga. O le sa o lea.
Yeah, Stone Facility, yes. So in the initial conversation, so renovation you should always have your maximum bar, whatever your maximum bar allow for example, and you say, okay, I can only borrow 300,000 le bar. Then you try and renovate your house, build your house within 220,000. because you still have the rest of the money just in case whangale ise me kupu. Umalola i renovation, I like koya kupenga in your bar, then you can go and buy yourself le Ferrari ke mga away. But in the beginning, when we're doing the renovation and doing all this stuff, there's always unforeseen. Is any job that you do, any renovation project that you do, any new build that you do, you always got to have a contingency of a lot of people say 10 to 15% contingency. For me, I always tell people you need to allow for 20 to 25%.
Right.
You always want to be more than less, just in case.
Just in case. I me unexpected costs nei.
Yeah.
E ni
Yeah.
whatita inga o se ngaruenga sau tau whaia ai te ua tura i mai ia le mata upu le e le i mawhawhawina o le ai ia se tau whao popo a le te le i tango e a mata na tala I lalo ia pui pui o le whale. So in other words, can you give an example for your experience in terms of unexpected costs when you start taking down the walls?
Yes, that was what I mentioned before.
Okay.
When we had the issue with the same family here, we had an unexpected thing where we couldn't figure out why there was mold growing inside the house. Because we did the investigation on the outside, we did the investigation on the roof. The roof was fine. There was no issues with the roof. So that means there was no leak on the roof.
Yeah.
We even did an investigation outside of Aipolepo or Likia and we just couldn't find where the water egress issues were. Until we opened the jib, a remover jib, then we found it. The last builder that built the house, they put the building paper I kokongor Fale. So you think about it, your house from breathing.
Yes.
But they put it inside the house. And so there was no, uh, a breathable house. Your house can't breathe anymore. So that's the issue there. So that's why all that moisture was trapped inside the house. So that's the reason why we mold inside the jib.
I love city there, Thomas. It's outside the scope of what we're
Yeah.
discussing now. But are
Yes.
you able to track down the original builders that did this and charge them or make a report on them? Ele teimi le ana lātou whaatinoa ai, ele sao malelei le whaatinoa no le ngaruanga mōmua.
If I could track that builder back from the 1970s, Severe, I would, and find him.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you can't. And that's the reason why I tell everyone that we engage with, we always say, it doesn't matter if you build with us or build with someone else, as long as you have the right team who are, number one, certified in what they do, number two, licensed in what they do, and number three, give guarantees for the work that they do. Because if you don't cover all these three things, when you go to apply for your council, if it is a consented job, qualification, license, certification, then you're in trouble. And this is not the first job. This is not going to be my first job or my last job. We're currently doing another build right now. We're doing 3 houses, 3 new builds that we've also taken over from a previous contractor who has not completed the works. So because of the, don't want to say it bad words, but so so you just gotta palafu. So you gotta make sure you find the right people. And sometimes in a trade, cheap is not always good. Sometimes if a guy cheap, but it's good. But if it's too cheap, if it's too good to be true, it's too good to be true.
Yeah. So now, what are some of the unexpected costs in regards to le palama o le ngaruenga palama e mese foi o ngaruenga fa ele tise foi le I te tonu o Fale nei.
Yeah, that's a very good question, style of surveillance facility. So, face renovation, and we can't get into, for example, inside to the roof space or inside the underneath the floor le fale, and we can't do a full investigation, and a client wants to do, for example, a quotation or sengaluenga to quickly get a pre-approval, and then before we start the job and we haven't done that proper investigation, what happens is a plumber may come and say, hey, I've only quoted to do these new pipes here from this area to this area, but I didn't expect to find that all of the house was actually copper. And we've only allowed for PVC, but now you have to replace with copper. And with copper, it costs more money. So that's an unforeseen in Emele Palamo. And another unforeseen with the plumber is when he comes there and he hasn't allowed a movable waste for his work. And he said, oh, I've allowed for waste in the subfloor or floor family we can get underneath, but not for concrete because I haven't allowed for concrete cutting and in the concrete slab. So that means he needs to charge us to cut the concrete. And then on top of you cutting the concrete, that means we need to now approach a structural engineer. So now we have to talk to the engineer in order to fix this thing that we've cut for the plumber's pipes. So there's a lot involved when it comes to moving things or palama that people don't know about. And then you got an electrician. He may have allowed to only pre-wire your house for a certain amount of things, but then he gets there and he has a look at your switchboard le o ko fale. Ele mafai ele go board nga handle the new amount of lights, that's going to go into your house. Malau 60-inch TV that you want to install now, and now we have to put in more more switches in order to handle the amount of power. So that's more of an electrician that needs to figure that out. But those are some of the things that we might not be able to see or find along the way until we open things up.
So, in other words, before you go ahead to do your job, you've already read and look at the blueprint of the plumber and also the electrician to make provisions of those spaces?
Yeah. So I already do that in the beginning. That's why I said to you the importance of having the process. There are always going to be unforeseen, but we don't eliminate, but we minimize. We minimize the risk on a lot of these big jobs by going through doing our due diligence, Fale investigation. I get the plumbers down to site. So when you ask a builder for a quote, all you're doing is you're just going to get a quote based on what you think is meant to be. But the right process is you're meant to get the people that you need to the job, to your fale, to do a proper investigation. If you just ask for a quote, you're not going to get an accurate quote because they're doing what we call an estimate. And if you read your quote properly, it always says provisional sum or estimate. And then makarangaruenga and you change your mind or there's things they find makarangaruenga nga le valuafe umaifo suldi mafe. So that's why it's important to have these people come through your home, do a proper investigation, do a walkthrough, have a look in the roof, have a look underneath the house, and then you can get an accurate quote. And that's what we provide. It's that process. And with all the families that I build for, we go through this process. And when we find something that we didn't allow for, we stop and we talk about it. And we say, look, we've done all of the investigation. We've eliminated every single risk that we could think of. But this thing here, we didn't allow for this. And we're very honest and transparent with our clients. So that, as long as you're honest with people and tell them up front, that way they can plan. But if you try and figure out ways to hide it, then it makes it worse for everybody involved.
Malu, ta ua tele whafteik tele lava Thomas mo whaamam lama ino ia, vaenga ai maise o le whaalongolongo mai le tātu o tunu. O le numero telefoni o le ali I whauwhale, so ni ai I au whawhita o li masa ngā luenga le lei o lo e manatu e tauna whaatino. Thomas e te maua le o lua tasi, 5 valu tolu ono wha. Toi whaafonga numero nā, mo le sunga a Thomas o lua tasi lima lima valu tolu ono fa. And then finally, Thomas, afapela I low ma lau masani ma lau tomai lewa e marmala mai nei. These unexpected costs, and some of them are areas where you require of the council consent, yeah, po se tulanga fo ia mulmulita I le tula fono o le council po pulenga fa I tu malo e fa tino ai ma ia se le sene fa tino I meia.
If time of silly, so with council, it's a very tough topic with council because council have their own processing fees and their own costs involved, especially with a lot of builds that we do. So some of the unforeseen or unexpected costs from council are, for example, we're doing a build here where we're doing a minor dwelling. When you're doing a minor dwelling in Ilofangua, and you're putting another fale there, they can sometimes come back to you and say, oh, we're going to charge you what we call development contribution. And they are the ones that assess that. We don't assess that. They tell you whether or not you need to pay that or yes or no. So sometimes we've had jobs in the past where we've put it through minor dwelling, council said nothing. And for this particular job that we're doing now, council came back and said to our client, you have to contribute development contribution section. So that's an unforeseen from council that we don't know about. Sometimes with council as well, depending on how long they process your plans, they have fees on top of their estimated costs that they have on their website. So you always got to allow for a little bit more with council sometimes as well. That's unforeseen, and we have that discussion with our clients as well up front with council, especially council, Victor, and water care.
Malo whapteitele lavali Thomas mo le tātalandoanga. You know, people are listening to our conversation and also learning a lot and also placing their trust in somebody like you. I can only marvel and with great admiration and personally tell you that I'm very proud of the work that you do. Ma o te mita ia te uto o lo whaia le ngā luenga le nei o lo mwhaia na wala au tu e o tātou lava tangata Samoa. Ia ma whaatino ila o tōtou tua. Ile ngangana le tātou o tunu. Ia, la whatu. Ia te oe, tawalunga mai, ia le tātalandoanga ma toi whailo ifo lau telefoni. Ia, o le whaalongolongo oto mamtina mātua e telia lātou tupe au mana o e whaini renovations me ia pe whausia fo sisi whale I tua o le lātou whanua ma le whaaloalo, Thomas.
Yeah, Whaftai Lava Severe, thank you so much again for the opportunity to be here. It is always a pleasure for me to share my knowledge with everyone and to be able to help our people. E o tātou te māma matina matua whaalongolongo mai. Give me a call if you want to know anything about renovations or building your new home. Po se whawina fo I lo whale fo ngā wharekolu. Just let me know and I'll be able to help you out. So give me a call on 021 558 364 and I'll be able to chat with you guys and help you guys for your future plans. Whaftai lava again, Savia, for your time. And God bless you, brother.
Whaftai tele lava, brother. Looking forward to our next conversation sometime next week. But you look after yourself, and I hope that our conversation will help others get in touch with you. Yeah, mama wai foi malfso sani multimnei fa soifoi.
Fa soifoi.
Soifoi. Ya le na le tandoanga mo le sunga le I faufale o le kamuta o le matua o faiva. E mawhai ona wala au i le tunu u le li talvau la le leile talanoa I le ngangana Samoa e te malamala mai. Mai whawhalonga e tasi alau whaalongo, very genuine and honest. Iri whai mea whaulele whaanga pelo pe o tele o mea e whai isi tangata o le tatu o tunu. E wala au Thomas I lau ngā luenga tele ele na e tau fuafu e whai ai e te whaaloto lua po o ai e whai a o ile whai. O lua tasi lima valu tolu ono wha. After tele se man lo wanga le le manatu mai le tapor kalam le ta u tele le